Last night in Portland, there's purportedly two different stabbings. Now, I'm not entirely sure. It could be the same stabbing, but there is a video going around showing an Antifa guy appear to stab someone. The video is really grainy. It's hard to know exactly what happened, but we'll get into all of this. Suffice it to say, last night in Portland was one of the craziest nights we've seen yet. The violence is only escalating. The DOJ has announced 18 people are being charged federally with crimes, arson, assault on an officer. And here's what you can get from the media. All in with Chris Hayes, Mehdi Hassan. It's time we use the F word. Fascism. Oh, now's the time we use the word fascism. I just happened to think you've been, my understanding was that you've been using the word endlessly for the past 5 years. Fascism. They use it every single election cycle. Whenever a Republican is running, the Republican is a fascist, blah, blah, blah. Look, I got to be honest. What's going on in Portland is getting, I don't want to say boring, but yeah. And this is how the news cycle works. So I want to talk to you about what happened with these stabbings and go through the evidence. But I want to point out some very important things. The reason the media hasn't been covering, say, the mass riots that just happened in Seattle. Did you know about them? If you've been following my videos, you probably do. 150 people showed up at Cal Anderson Park, where the Chaz used to be, and then went around smashing up windows and buildings. There was an explosion, and the Seattle police recently just told all of the people of Seattle, because they're expecting riots tonight, you're on your own. You know why? Because the judge has said you can't use riot control munitions. So the cops are like, we're not going to go out if we can't do anything, so it's on you. A federal judge is now blocking this, apparently saying, no, you guys can do this. Tell them to shut up. We'll see how things play out. But it's getting spicy. It is. There's right now in Louisville, Kentucky, 3 percenters, and you've got the NFAC coalition, 2 opposing militias. They're counter marching or whatever you want to call it. I don't know if they're protesting, but things are getting really, really spicy. It's stories like these from MSNBC that have made this happen. If you want to know why it is someone or potentially 2 people got stabbed in Portland last night, and I'm hearing it's 2. It's just hard to know because we got to dig through everything and the news is just breaking. Blame the media. Blame the media. There's videos. Let me jump over and see what we got here. Gary Weiss says, here is a demonstration of how to break into a federal building. Acetylene torches are always brought to protests, as we all know. Why in heaven's name are the feds targeting such peaceful rioters? P.S. This is not a PR guy for the protesters, but a New York Times reporter. Mike Baker tweeted, some protesters are working to cut the fence. The feds are targeting them. This is not a protest anymore, and it's not even a riot. It's something else. When an armed group of far left, they've got knives, they're stabbing people, and they're pulling out torches to cut through the barricade set up at a courthouse, they've already breached the building several times. It's a battle. It's some kind of conflict. Call it whatever you want. Domestic insurrection, fine, but it's not a riot. Now, listen, a lot of people, I see comments where they're like, play the videos. If I play the videos, you will not hear me say anything because YouTube will take them down. If you go on Twitter and look up at Gary Weiss, at Mike Baker, at Andy No is probably your best source. That's Andy, NGO. You can go to Twitter and you can watch these. So I'm going to show you the news and I'm going to show you what I've found and what I'm seeing. So I apologize if I can't play all of these videos in their entirety. Otherwise, this video wouldn't exist at all. We have this tweet here from Elijah Schaefer. He said, the alleged perpetrator of the Portland riot stabbing is Antifa. This week, Antifa also threw a blade at federal officers, according to evidence provided by the DOJ. We can see here in a video, this one I can play for you, where someone explains basically what happened. And I believe this is, I don't want to say this is the victim, but this is somebody who was with the victim. And here's what they had to say.
Sitting in the car right now, I've never seen so many federal agents and police in my life. My friend is hidden behind these cars. There's so many people here. He got stabbed by Antifa, and I tried to tell them that this dude was following us. As soon as my friend turned around, this dude stabbed him, tried to run. I'm hearing things that he got beat to death or something and that he got arrested. There's a lot of stuff going around. I'm in shock mode right now, and just pray for me and pray for my friends, please.
So that's what he had to say. Now, apparently there is a video of what happened. All right. I don't know if it is the right video. It's the video that's going around. People are asking, is there video showing what happened with Antifa? Yes. And again, I can't really play the whole thing in its entirety, but I can show you some stills. You can see here, this is the man who was purported, this is the guy they say was stabbed, all right? This is the guy in the overalls who apparently walked up, was following them for some time. So this guy fell back, and then when this dude was walking up to the cameraman, he came around, put his arm around him. I wonder if we can advance a little bit. You can see right here, he came up, put his arm around the guy, and then the other guy makes a gesture where this dude in black falls over, and they start yelling, he just stabbed him, get him, get him, get him. Well, they did get him. Here's a tweet where I show the image again. The video it's hard to see. I hope I have this right one. Yes. So here, Andy No has tweeted, a mob beats a man in the middle of downtown Portland. They say he stabbed someone. They said, arrest him now. Who do they want to arrest him? So this is another thing that people have been pointing out. In this instance, there's a video. In the video, they're yelling, call the cops. This guy stabbed somebody. But I believe these are not Antifa who are like yelling, hey, my friend got stabbed. The people who are, the video that went up says one of our reporters gets attacked while confronting Antifa. Following them is from the Common Sense Conservative. So you can see that right here on YouTube. And you can see in the comments, man, look what people are saying. That's why you should keep your hands off people, evade and survive. Dude, he never should have went and put his arm around him like a tough guy. Not saying this was his fault, but I'm saying you guys need to maintain distance. Never let yourselves be that vulnerable. That's a really, really good point. My position is don't violate, the non-aggression principle, as someone else said that, but I agree with it, right? If someone's following you, look, man, in America, you can walk down the street. It might be annoying, but if you go up and you grab someone, they could snap and go nuts. And we know Antifa is nuts. So keep your distance, stay safe. But more importantly, don't put your hands on people. That's it, man. Don't put your hands on people. A lot of people are saying, don't get that close to Antifa. They're violent. They don't care about you. That's another really good point. A lot of people are saying there was another stabbing. And I do believe I have a clip of that as well. This is from Black Rebel. He says, I got stabbed in Portland by Antifa on my way to hospital. I don't know if this is the same guy. I don't think it is because I looked at some of his tweets. But again, listen, man, I'm just trying to give you a base level of understanding of what's going on. There have been a few people who are like, oh, you're just pulling up videos. Yes, not everybody knows who the sources are. Not everybody knows who to follow. Not everybody knows what's going on. We'll get a clearer picture as things develop. For the time being, it would seem that the dude got stomped out. The Antifa guy in the overalls, whatever, he got stomped out. This is all following, as most of you know. What are we on? 58? Day 58? I don't even know, because I'll tell you this. Every time I read an article, it's like 55. Then later in the day, they're like 56. And I'm like, do you mean tonight or do you mean tomorrow? Like, what day did this start? All right. I think it's not 58. I think it might be a 57 or whatever, but whatever, man. It started, I think, on May 25th, but it's like gotten a lot worse. Now, there are photos popping up. Thousands of people showing up in Portland. Thousands. And it is the fault of the media. This story right here, the fault of the media. You see, Antifa far leftists, it was a small group, breached the courthouse on July 4th. Even left-wing sources confirm that they broke in. They cut through. And as I mentioned, the tweet from Gary Weiss, they're using a torch to try and cut through the barricades that the police have set up. A torch to cut metal. This is not a riot. This is tactical. Some kind of tactical insurgency. Call it whatever you want. But they did get in the building on the 39th night. That's according to Bellingcat, which seems to be very sympathetic to these extremists. After that, the feds came out and started putting up barricades and protecting the building. Protecting the building includes going around and clearing the streets of people who are throwing explosives, commercial grade fireworks and bringing torches and weapons. We recently got a ruling from a federal judge. The state of Oregon sued the feds, tried to get a restraining order stopping the feds from enforcing the law. And they were arguing that the secret unmarked police had jumped out of an unmarked vehicle and snatched some people up. The judge straight up ruled, nope. The only evidence they have are two moments where the police claim they detained people and moved them to the courthouse so a large crowd wouldn't form. That was it. they're also easily identifiable. The judge even said in the only 2 instances you can show of these unmarked secret police, they're clearly marked. They have their badges on, they have their patches on their chest, on their arms. And apparently the judge said, you know, he was like, even if it's not, there's no probable cause, showing 2 instances is not widespread. So demanding a restraining order makes no sense. Yeah. The law as it stands is operating as the law is supposed to. The officers are allowed to detain and question. The officers asserted probable cause. They said this person matched the description of someone who committed violence. And now the media has run rampant with a fake narrative about secret police. And the media has drawn out all these people. So let me tell you, while they're blaming Trump, saying Trump sending in the feds is causing all of this, they're lying to you. The whole thing, the entire time, has been lies. So you want to talk about who's at fault for the stabbing? I get it. Look, you're going to see a lot of people saying he shouldn't have gone up and grabbed the guy. That's the initial act of aggression. The dude, overreacted. I personally think don't stab people. Guy puts his arm around your neck. You push him off. But you don't put your arm around somebody's neck. But I'll tell you what, I don't care about that squabble. All right? Don't stab somebody. And the dude who did got arrested. I believe so. There's like a video of it. More importantly, it's the fault of the media. The media is propping up these extremists, lying about what's going on to embolden them and supply them with reinforcements. Why? I don't know. But I'll tell you this, it's going to backfire on Democrats. I think the media wants sensational shock content. So they're like, just claim the Trump people, the feds, the law enforcement are evil because it plays into everyone's, pre-existing narrative, and it'll make more. That's the game, right? The media says, listen, we got 10 people, breaching the courthouse and the feds repelled them. What do? Make up the most insane nonsense possible to get more protesters so we can get more nights of this. I'll tell you who it helps. Donald Trump. It's the same thing they did in 2015 and 16. They wouldn't stop airing all of Trump, no matter what he did. They gave him all of this airtime, $5 billion in free press coverage, and all of this right now. Trump couldn't ask for a more compliant media. They're so desperate and stupid and deceitful that Trump is sending in law enforcement. People see these videos and he's like, I'm going to enforce the law. And now they are. Check this out. 18 arrested facing federal charges related to violence in downtown Portland. Charges include arson, assaulting a federal officer, and damaging government property. U.S. Attorney Billy J. Williams on Friday announced 18 people have been arrested on federal charges for their alleged roles in the violence at the federal courthouse in downtown Portland. Those nonviolent protests, blah, blah, blah. I'm more interested in the violent ones. U.S. Marshal Service deputies and officers from the FPS, Homeland Security Investigations, and CBP working to protect the courthouse have been subjected to nightly threats and assault from demonstrators while performing their duties. Members of the media were allowed to tour the courthouse on Friday. Williams said anyone who defends the destruction is only enabling it. Blaming federal agents for protecting federal property is an easy out for people who want to politicize this. You have to ask the community how long they are willing to tolerate this mindless violence. Meanwhile, the Justice Department and Homeland Security offices of Inspector General opened investigations into the conduct of federal officers during the protests following complaints from the public and Congress. Gassing, assaulting, batoning on the streets of our city, not here, not allowed, and we will put an end to it. Yes. Not allowed, they say, except they literally do this all the time. I'm talking about crowd control. It's not new. It's totally normal. You can talk about how you don't like it, but listen, in Seattle, you want to know what recently happened? The city council said the cops have no right. They're not allowed to use riot control munitions. So the police sent out a newsletter to local businesses saying we will not put our officers in harm's way. If the city council doesn't want us to use crowd control, we will not be there. But now here's the update. Federal judge blocks Seattle Council's law banning police anti-riot gear. The judge called his restraining order very temporary and called for constructive talks between the city and the Justice Department. Fox reports. In a ruling Friday night, a federal judge blocked a new Seattle law prohibiting police from using pepper spray and other anti-riot weapons. The new law was set to take effect Sunday, but U.S. District Judge James Robart granted a request by the federal government to block the measure, the Seattle Times reported. The Seattle City Council passed the new law unanimously last month, hoping to reduce violent clashes between police and protesters. This is the stupidity of these left-wing politicians. I'm sorry, I gotta say it. When the far left shows up and they say, burn down that bring that statue down, burn that building down. And the government goes, in order to prevent any violence, we're going to do everything they say. Do you know what you're telling them? You are telling the far left that it worked. You are telling them their violence worked and you will give them what they want. 150 people marched around downtown Seattle, smashing up windows, stealing merchandise from businesses, and burning it in the street. Why? Because the police were told, let them out. Let them do their thing. And the politicians are like, but it will stop the violent clashes. Oh, you're right. It will stop the violent clashes between the police. Let me tell you what Trump is doing. The Seattle City Council, 100% correct. Oh, no, hear me out. They did successfully stop some violent clashes between the police and the rioters. They just replaced it with violent clashes between local businesses and the rioters. Now the rioters are still getting violent, but there is nothing protecting the people. And that's what Trump is doing with Operation Diligent Valor and Operation Legend. I am no fan of police militarization. I've covered it. I've spoken out against it. In my opinion, I don't like the idea. I believe we need better constraints on what police use, what they're wearing, kind of gear they have. I get it. You know, all these things. But what we are seeing in Portland is not police militarization. Just because they're wearing camo doesn't mean they are the military. Just because these officers this looks like they're just guarding a building surrounded, here's what it says. Seattle police officers hold weapons as they stand guard outside the East Precinct building. That's them guarding their own police department. The existence of law enforcement is not a suppression of your rights. Now, if 300 federal agents in full decked out gear, and they've got no badges, okay, then I'm concerned. Except the only issue for the left, they are identifiable. If they show up in APCs with live ammo and they litter the streets with tear gas and not one protester did anything to warrant it, we call out the police brutality. I have seen it happen. I've seen police instigate. I've seen the famous Tony Baloney video from Occupy where he walked up to, I believe 4 women standing on the sidewalk doing nothing, and he just sprays them in the face. That guy got in trouble. He got reassigned to Staten Island and everybody made fun of him. But what's happening now in Portland is not overt militarization of the police. They're using pepper ball guns. They're like paintballs. They're using tear gas. This has been going on forever. You can argue no tear gas, fine. It doesn't seem to affect the rioters anyway. But I don't know what tactics you want to talk about. Militarization, you got to have badges. You got to have badge numbers. My big issue is let's talk about when they can use certain tactics and tools. That's it. Oversight, control. Now here's what's happening with Trump and the deployment of Legend. Operation Legend, as you heard, is just like FBI. Go into field offices. Yeah, they're going to investigate. Diligent Valor is what's going on in Portland. This is specifically CBP, U.S. Marshals, and ICE and FPS protecting a courthouse. If the far left doesn't go to the courthouse, in fact, I'll one-up it. If the far left and these groups of people went to the courthouse and the protesters, the real ones, held the extremists accountable, none of this would happen. Period. None of it would happen. The police wouldn't come out because there's a guy with a torch cutting through a barricade. There's people starting fires. And that's when they come out. So I'll tell you what. You see these videos, and I've been following many, many journalists, and they all show very similar things. The federal police do not react for the most part. I say for the most part because from the videos I've seen, and I've seen probably like 50 to 100, you'll see like in that video of Mayor Ted Wheeler standing on the fence and the feds are doing nothing. They're going, you must disperse, you must. And then you see mortar shells flying over, boom, boom, bangs, and fires being started. And then the feds say, time to move, time to get out. You're throwing weapons and explosives. Now, remember that video I showed several times? Maybe you saw it, where I think it was in DC, I'm not sure. An Antifa guy is hammering the sidewalk and the protesters grab him and bring him to the police. Amazing. They said, stop this guy. Then you get your protest. But if the protesters won't stop the far left from throwing explosives, trying to knock the barricades down, well, then you're going to get riot controlled the same as anybody else. What we are seeing in Seattle, not even Portland, in Seattle, but Portland as well. The people are, the police are being told not to intervene. And so the police are like, we're not going to be there for you. So this is what most people are afraid of. And this is what feeds right into Trump's hands. You see, Trump is now going to point out the very, very obvious and real fact. In Seattle, they told the police you can't use riot gear. And so the police said, then we don't go out. Then the rioters went out and destroyed businesses. The violent clashes still happened. Except the only difference, it wasn't just the police fighting protesters or rioters. It was rioters destroying the lives of innocent people. And that's what you can expect probably today, because it's supposed to get a lot crazier tonight. And if the police can't do their jobs, well, then they won't. I don't know if the Seattle police are planning on coming out. We do have this ruling, which is very interesting. They say this. The U.S. Justice Department argued that the inability to use pepper spray, blast balls, and other devices might actually lead to more police use of force, not less. And listen, if you take away less lethal tactics and strategies, then what do the police have to do? In a normal circumstance, where a regular old beat cop just walking down the street, he's got his taser and he's got his gun, his handgun, and somebody is smashing up windows and swinging a weapon. These things end very badly for the person. They'll get tased, maybe even shot. In a riot control situation, what's happening, they use less lethal. If you take away less lethal, the only option for police is going to be their taser or their gun. And even in this instance, maybe they can't even use their tasers. I don't know. Nope, you can't use it. Well, the cops said, we're not going to put ourselves in danger. Nope. Because the cops don't want to go out and shoot people with live ammo. And if they can't do anything to protect themselves with less lethal munitions, why would they come out? That's you, Seattle. You keep voting for it. It's what you get. In his ruling, Robar determined that the situation required further discussion between the city and Justice Department, which years ago entered a settlement agreement regarding a police department overhaul because of past complaints about excessive force and biased policing. Robar called his restraining order blocking the law very temporary and advised the city and the Justice Department to engage in constructive discussions. This, I understand. Prior to the judge's Friday ruling, Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best, in anticipation of the new law taking effect Sunday, announced plans for adjusted deployment methods that she said were designed to protect police officers who would lack access to the anti-riot weapons. But the judge's Friday ruling moved the chief's plan moot, at least for now. Meanwhile, on Thursday, the federal government plan arrived in Seattle carrying federal law enforcement officers who were expected to be deployed this weekend to protect federal buildings from any possible rioting. They would augment the deployment of local police. Here we go, baby. I hope you're ready for tonight, because you saw it in Portland. Now it's going to be everywhere. This is the big weekend. The Portland riots are close to hitting their 2-month mark. If not, they've already done it. And the media is going to lie every step of the way. They've been doing it. Let me just wrap this up for you with this, because it really does strike at the core of my being. 2 videos went viral showing police with their badges. CBP, I believe, was on their arms. You can see the patches on their arms and their badge number, and police on their chest. And the narrative emerged that unidentified secret police were marching around snatching up people. Complete and total lie. And from that, the narrative has become this weird vision. You know, I'm talking to activists and they think that there's like hundreds of people being disappeared. It's just literally 2 people who were questioned for an hour and a half and let go. That was it. And the judge said, what do you mean? In these videos, I can see they're wearing police, and said, buzz off. You're wrong. Well, the state is going up against the Fed. We'll see how this plays out tonight. There is some more, one quick update. There's going to be 2 militias marching against they're countering each other. I'll put it that way, in Louisville. So today, it's going to get spicy. I'll see you all in the next video on this channel coming up at 1 p.m. Thanks for hanging out.